Have you ever felt like learning English is like climbing a towering mountain, where every step is filled with difficulties and challenges? Perhaps you've tried various methods, spent countless hours memorizing vocabulary, listening to conversations over and over again. Yet the results are still far from what you desire. You're not alone. I've been there too. Back then, when I was just a boy living in a small village on the outskirts, English to me was nothing more than a distant, complicated, and intimidating language. Every time I heard someone speak English fluently, I felt admiration but also a deep sense of inadequacy. But then, one day, I decided to make a change. I didn't want to stand on the sidelines forever, watching others progress while I remained stuck in the same place. I began searching for effective ways to learn English, experimenting with different methods one by one, failing countless times. But each time I stumbled, I stood up, learned from my mistakes, and tried again. And through that long and challenging journey, I discovered the most effective ways to learn English. Methods that helped me not only understand vocabulary, but also use it naturally and fluently. In today's video, I will share with you the 10 most powerful methods to help you learn English quickly and naturally. The techniques I have applied and found to be truly effective. These tips are not only for beginners but also incredibly useful for those who want to elevate their English skills to a new level. And the best part is, everything I'm about to share with you are methods you can apply right away, no matter your level, whether you have plenty of time or just a few minutes each day. These techniques will help you make progress day by day. You'll learn how to understand English more naturally, speak more fluently, read more deeply, and write with more confidence. But above all, I'll show you how to make English a natural part of your daily life so you can learn without feeling like you're learning. But before we begin, I want to hear from you. What difficulties have you encountered on your English learning journey? Is there a method you find most effective? Please share your story in the comments below, because we're here to learn and help each other grow. Now let's dive into the first method, listening like a native speaker. This is the most solid foundation for building all other skills. And don't worry, I'll show you how to turn your listening skills into a true superpower. Have you ever felt that when you watch American movies or listen to native speakers, everything seems to rush by like a whirlwind? Words blend together, pronunciation can be unclear, and even when you understand each individual word, the overall meaning still feels blurry? I have been in that situation before. As a child living in a small village, English to me was nothing more than words in a textbook, isolated, dry, and never spoken as complete sentences. I remember the first time I watched an American movie without subtitles. It felt like being lost in a sea of unfamiliar language. I heard familiar words but couldn't connect them to form meaningful sentences. Then I realized the problem wasn't with the vocabulary or grammar I had learned. It was in the way I listened. Listening is the foundation of all languages. It's like how a child learns to speak listening for thousands of hours before uttering their first words. But not all listening is the same. There are two common types of listening: active listening and passive listening. Active listening. This is when you focus on every word and sentence, trying to grasp the meaning, sometimes pausing or replaying to analyze. For example, when you listen to an English learning podcast and take notes on new words, passive listening. On the other hand, this is when you listen naturally, like playing background music while doing chores. You don't need to understand everything. You simply let the sounds flow into your ears. Both are important. But what truly makes a difference is practicing active listening. When I started learning English seriously, I tried a method that I want to share with you: the shadowing technique imitation. Here's how I did it. I chose a short conversation from a movie or a speech from TED Talks. I would listen to the first sentence and immediately repeat it, trying to mimic the speaker's tone, intonation, and connected speech. In the beginning, I kept listening to just one short clip from the show Friends. You might have seen the scene where Rachel and Ross argue with each other. They speak very fast, pause randomly, and use a lot of slang. But instead of trying to understand everything, I focused on just one sentence. I listened, repeated, and then listened again. Day by day, each sentence gradually became clearer. The interesting thing is, when you practice this technique long enough, you start to feel like the language is sinking into you. It's no longer a series of isolated words, but rather a rhythm, a more natural feeling when listening to English. So, how can you turn listening to English into a powerful skill? Try applying these 3 simple steps. 1. Choose content that suits your level. Don't try to listen to complex speeches if you're just starting out. Instead, begin with everyday conversations, cartoons, or podcasts designed for English learners. 2. Actively listen for at least 15 minutes a day. What matters is quality, not quantity. Pick a short segment and repeat it over and over until you fully understand everything. 3. Apply the shadowing technique. Listen, repeat, and try to imitate exactly how native speakers speak. This helps you improve not only your listening skills, but also your pronunciation and intonation. But most importantly, don't give up. The more you listen, mimic, and learn, the faster your listening skills will improve. Now, you've learned how to listen effectively, but being good at listening doesn't necessarily mean you'll be able to speak fluently. In fact, many people can understand what others are saying, but still struggle to express their own ideas naturally. And that's exactly why, in the next part, I'll show you how to master speaking, how to speak English fluently and naturally like a native speaker. Have you ever experienced this feeling? You understand everything others are saying. You grasp every word, every sentence. But when it's your turn to speak, everything suddenly becomes difficult. You hesitate, your words get tangled up in your mind, and in the end, you only manage to say a few awkward sentences. I still remember the first time I tried to speak with a native speaker. We met at an English exchange event in the city. He was very friendly and asked me what I liked to do in my free time. And at that very moment, I felt like I was frozen. Even though I had plenty of answers in my mind, I wanted to say that I enjoyed reading books, watching movies, and hiking, but when I opened my mouth, all I could manage to say was a short, clumsy sentence. I like books. Disappointed in myself, I asked, why can I understand what they're saying, but I can't respond naturally? And that's when I realized speaking English isn't about knowing vocabulary or grammar. It's about confidence, habit, and the ability to respond naturally. Speaking is the hardest part of learning a language. Unlike listening or reading, speaking requires you to actively form sentences, choose the right words, and arrange them into complete sentences, all within a short amount of time. Not only that, but you also have to control your pronunciation, intonation, and emotions while speaking. It's a complex process, but it's also what makes it so exciting. But you know what? There's a very simple secret that many people often overlook, and that is to speak well. You have to speak often. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to speak. When I realized I needed to practice speaking more, I tried many methods, and here's the most effective one I want to share with you. Daily speaking practice. Every morning, I spend at least 15 minutes speaking English by myself. That's right, I stand in front of the mirror and talk to myself. I start with simple sentences. The weather is nice today. What should I have for breakfast? Then gradually, I move on to more complex sentences like describing what I did yesterday or talking about my future plans. But that's not all. I also tried applying a technique called role-playing. For example, I would imagine myself in a restaurant in New York. I'm the customer, and I have to order food in English. Then, I switch roles and become the waiter, answering the customer's questions. Creating these conversational scenarios made me feel more comfortable, improved my reflexes, and especially helped me gradually eliminate the fear of making mistakes. I realized that the more I spoke, the more mistakes I made, the faster I improved. If you want to improve your speaking skills, try following these steps. 1. Talk to yourself every day. You don't need anyone to practice with. You can talk about anything you like. The important thing is to speak without worrying about being perfect. 2. Create communication scenarios. Put yourself in imagined situations like ordering food at a restaurant, introducing yourself to a crowd, or giving a presentation about a topic you love. 3. Practice shadowing. Listen and repeat sentences spoken by native speakers as accurately as possible. This helps you improve pronunciation, intonation, and confidence. 4. Record and listen to yourself. Listen to your own voice to identify mistakes and improve over time. But the most important lesson I've learned from my own experience is, don't be afraid of making mistakes. Mistakes are not failures. They are stepping stones that bring you closer to confidence. After you've practiced speaking naturally, you need another powerful tool to continue your journey, and that is reading. Reading isn't just about absorbing information. It's also a wonderful way to enrich your vocabulary and expressions. Let's explore reading for fluency. Reading is more than just vocabulary in the next part. I still remember very clearly the first time I tried to read an English book. It was a children's novel I bought from an old bookstore. The cover was colorful, featuring a small dog with big, round, adorable eyes. I thought, oh, this book should be easy to understand. But things weren't as simple as I imagined. I read slowly, sentence by sentence, trying to translate every word. The new words kept stopping me constantly. And when I finished a page, I realized I couldn't remember anything. It was all just scattered words, with no connection, creating no meaning at all. At that time, I thought I needed to understand every single word to be able to read English well. But I was wrong. Later, I realized that reading English isn't just about understanding vocabulary. It's about grasping the story, emotions, and ideas behind each sentence. Reading English is like opening a door to a new world. You're not only learning vocabulary, grammar, or sentence structure. You're also learning how native speakers think, feel, and express their ideas. There are 2 reading methods I want to share with you: extensive reading and intensive reading. Extensive reading. This is when you read to understand the general idea without needing to know every word. This helps you improve your reading speed, strengthen your ability to understand context, and learn new words naturally. For example, when you read an article or a short story, you only need to grasp the main idea without translating every word. Intensive reading. This is when you carefully read a short text, analyzing each sentence, learning new words, and understanding how they are used. This helps you improve your vocabulary and grammar in detail. Both methods are important. However, many people make the mistake of only focusing on intensive reading, translating every word, while forgetting that extensive reading is the best way to develop your thinking ability in English. I used to be obsessed with understanding every single word in a sentence. At that time, I would spend hours reading a short article, taking notes of every new word, and looking them up in the dictionary. But when I finished, I felt frustrated and exhausted. Then one day, I happened to read a famous children's story, Charlotte's Web, by E.B. White. At that moment, I decided to change my approach. Instead of trying to translate every word, I focused on understanding the story. Of course, there were many words I didn't know, but I learned to guess their meanings from context. I allowed myself to skip over unimportant words, and something magical happened. I began to enjoy the story. Thanks to this extensive reading method, I gradually improved my reading speed, learned new words naturally, and most importantly, I no longer felt discouraged. Since then, I've applied this method to a wide range of books, from short stories to novels, from news articles to blog. If you want to improve your English reading skills, remember these tips. 1. Start with what you enjoy. Don't force yourself to read complex academic articles. Instead, find stories, books, or articles about topics you love. 2. Combine extensive and intensive reading. Use extensive reading to develop your reading speed and ability to grasp the main idea. Use intensive reading to learn new vocabulary and grammar structures. 3. You don't need to understand every word. Don't let a few new words discourage you. Try to guess their meanings from context before reaching for the dictionary. 4. Read every day. Even if it's just a few pages or a short article, make reading a daily habit. But the most important thing I want you to remember is read to understand the story, not to translate every word. The story will guide you, helping you naturally absorb new words and expressions without having to try too hard. So, you've learned how to read English effectively. But there's another skill we often overlook, even though it's extremely important, and that is writing. Writing doesn't just help you reinforce what you've learned. It's also a great way to express your own thoughts confidently and coherently. Let's explore writing for mastery, writing to strengthen your knowledge in the next part. Writing, an activity that many people tend to avoid when learning English. Listening and speaking seem interesting and lively, but writing, sometimes it seems so dry and complicated. I still remember very clearly the first days when I tried to write in English. Sitting in front of a blank page, holding a pen without knowing where to start. The English sentences were all jumbled up in my mind. I tried to piece together the vocabulary I knew into a complete sentence. But the more I tried, the more confused I became. One day, while learning to write, I decided to start a small journal. Not lengthy academic essays, just a few simple lines about what I did each day. Little things like, the weather is beautiful today. I took a walk in the park and saw flowers blooming. At first, I made many mistakes. I wasn't even sure if I was using the right words, but I kept writing little by little every day. And then something magical happened. Writing in English isn't just about expressing ideas. It's also a fantastic way to reinforce what you've learned. When you write, you have to think about vocabulary, grammar, sentence structure. Everything you've learned from listening, reading, and speaking needs to be applied to create a coherent piece of writing. Moreover, writing helps you think more deeply. Unlike speaking, where you can quickly correct mistakes by simply repeating yourself, writing requires you to think carefully before you put words down. This helps you better understand how to use words, how to structure sentences, and even recognize the mistakes you frequently make. Simply put, writing is the way to turn your knowledge into real skills. I started keeping a daily journal and tried to apply everything I had learned. Some days I wrote a lot, but there were also days when I only wrote a few simple sentences. But the most important thing was that I maintained the habit of writing every day. It didn't stop at journaling. I also tried writing letters to friends, those who were learning English just like me. We exchanged emails, gave each other feedback, and gradually, I learned how to write more naturally. Another time, I decided to challenge myself by writing a short story. I remember writing about a little dog who got lost and its journey to find its way home. The story wasn't a masterpiece, but it was a big step forward for me. Because during the writing process, I didn't just use familiar vocabulary. I also tried to learn new words to express emotions and situations more vividly. If you want to improve your English writing skills, try applying these methods. Start small. Don't try to write a long essay from the beginning. Start with short sentences, a journal entry, or even a list of things you want to do each day. 2. Write every day. Like any other skill, writing needs regular practice. Just 5 to 10 minutes of writing each day is enough. 3. Get feedback. If possible, share what you've written with others. Listening to feedback and correcting mistakes will help you progress faster. 4. Challenge yourself. Try writing about a new topic or experimenting with a different style. This will help you expand your vocabulary and improve your expression. But the most important thing is, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Mistakes are your most valuable lessons. Writing is truly a fascinating journey, but writing well doesn't mean you've completely mastered the language. To truly use English naturally and effectively, you need a rich, diverse, and flexible vocabulary. In the next part, I will show you how to expand your vocabulary in the most effective and easiest way. This is one of the key elements that will help you feel more confident when speaking and writing English. Have you ever experienced this situation? You want to express an idea clearly and smoothly in English, but then you hesitate, not knowing which word to choose. Sometimes you know a word but aren't sure if it fits the context, and when you can't find the right word, you end up speaking in a hesitant and awkward manner. I used to be like that too. I remember the early days when I tried to communicate in English. I often only used basic words like good, bad, big, small. My entire world revolved around those simple words. Everything was either good or bad. A great movie was good, a delicious meal was also good. Everything felt the same, plain and boring. But the interesting thing is, I wasn't the only one facing this difficulty. Most people learning English make a common mistake. They try to memorize as many new words as possible in isolation, without truly understanding how to use them. Vocabulary is like the building blocks of every sentence, every paragraph. If you only know a limited number of words, it's like trying to build a house with just a few bricks. Vocabulary isn't just individual words. It includes phrases, idioms, and natural expressions that native speakers use every day. For example, instead of just saying, "I am happy," you can say, "I am over the moon," a much more vivid and expressive way of communicating. Expanding your vocabulary helps you not only understand better, but also express yourself more accurately, vividly, and naturally. But most importantly, learning new words is not just about knowing them. It's about using them. There was a time when I tried to learn vocabulary from long lists I found in English textbooks. Day after day, I crammed hundreds of new words into my head, hoping that they would eventually become mine. But the result was, I forgot most of those words within just a week. The problem wasn't the number of words I learned. It was the way I learned them. Then, I changed my strategy. Instead of trying to learn as many words as possible, I started focusing on phrases and expressions commonly used by native speakers. For example, when watching movies, I would write down interesting sentences I heard, rather than just paying attention to individual words. I also began using the spaced repetition method. Here's how I did it. When learning a new word, I tried to use it immediately in a sentence or even write a short paragraph that included it. Then I reviewed the word after 1 day, 3 days, 1 week, and 1 month. This way, the word didn't just exist in my short-term memory, but truly became part of my vocabulary. Additionally, I used mind maps. When learning a new word, I didn't just focus on that single word. I also learned related words, synonyms, antonyms, and common phrases associated with it. For example, when learning the word exciting, I also studied words like thrilling, breathtaking, stimulating from one basic word. I expanded my vocabulary naturally and memorably. If you want to expand your vocabulary, remember these tips. 1. Learn words in context. Don't learn words in isolation. Instead, learn them through sentences or passages that you truly understand and enjoy. 2. Use spaced repetition. Review new words at gradually increasing intervals to move them into your long-term memory. 3. Create mind maps. When learning a new word, explore related words, synonyms, and common expressions associated with it. 4. Use new words immediately. Don't let them just sit in your notebook. Apply them in the paragraphs you write, the conversations you have, or even the stories you create. But most importantly, remember, learning new words is not a race for quantity. It's a journey to find the best way to express what you want to say. Vocabulary is indeed a powerful tool. But no matter how many words you know, if you don't know how to arrange them into coherent sentences, everything will remain just scattered pieces. And that's why, in the next part, we will talk about another essential aspect of learning English: grammar mastery, the essential foundation. Let's explore how to turn grammar from a source of fear into a reliable companion on your learning journey. Grammar. 2 words that can make many English learners feel pressured and frustrated. Some people believe that to speak English well, they need to memorize every rule, every complex sentence structure perfectly. But the truth is, that's not necessary. I went through that phase myself. When I first started learning English, I thought I had to master all the grammar rules before I could speak or write well. I diligently memorized the present simple, past simple, present perfect, then conditionals, type 1, type 2, type 3. Countless rules were meticulously noted down in my notebook. But when it came to practical use, I found myself confused. One time, during a conversation with a native speaker, I tried to use a complex sentence with "if I had known" that I had learned before. But suddenly, I forgot how to conjugate the verb that followed. As a result, I just smiled awkwardly and stammered. At that moment, I realized learning grammar without knowing how to apply it is meaningless. Grammar is not a strict set of rules you must rigidly follow. It's more like a framework that helps you construct sentences and express your thoughts clearly and coherently. Good grammar helps you convey your ideas accurately. For example, if you want to talk about something that happened in the past but still affects the present, you would use the present perfect tense. Or if you want to talk about a specific plan scheduled for the future, you would use the near future tense. Grammar is not just about memorizing rules, it's the way you can express your thoughts accurately and naturally. And to do that, you need to understand grammar as a dynamic, flexible tool, not a rigid set of dry rules. I realized that to truly master grammar, I needed to learn how to apply it rather than just memorize it. I started by writing sentences that I wanted to use in everyday life. For example, when I wanted to tell a friend about a past trip, I focused on using the simple past tense. I visited the Grand Canyon last month. It was breathtaking. Then when I wanted to talk about future plans, I switched to the near future tense. I am going to visit New York next summer. But it didn't stop at writing. I also applied another method that I call sentence parsing. I selected English sentences that I found interesting, whether from a book, an article, or a movie. Then I broke down the sentence structure, identifying components like the subject, verb, object, adverbs, etc. This helped me gain a deeper understanding of how sentences are constructed and how grammar is genuinely used in natural contexts. Instead of just memorizing theory, I created small exercises for myself. For example, writing a paragraph using as many conditional sentences as possible, or retelling a story from the past using both the simple past and past perfect tenses. Gradually, I no longer had to think too much about grammar when speaking or writing. Everything seemed to flow more naturally. To truly master grammar, remember the following points. 1. Learn grammar through real-life examples. Don't just memorize rules. Learn how to apply them in real sentences that you can use every day. 2. Practice writing every day. Write journals, emails, or short stories. The more you write, the more mistakes you'll discover and learn how to correct them. 3. Analyze sample sentences. Take a sentence you find interesting and break down its structure. This will help you understand how grammar is used in context. 4. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Every mistake is an opportunity to learn. If you don't make mistakes, you won't know where you need to improve. But the most important lesson I've learned on my journey is this. Grammar is not the goal. It's a tool that allows you to express your thoughts freely. Grammar is like a map that guides you on your journey to learning English. But to truly become a confident communicator, you need something else. Real interaction with others. In the next section, we will explore speaking partners and community, communication and interaction, to help you not only learn English, but also use it naturally and with enthusiasm. Have you ever felt like an isolated island on your English learning journey? You try to study alone at home, watch videos, read books, write journals, but when it's time to speak to someone, you feel locked up, unable to express what you want to say. I've been there too. I remember attending a language exchange event at a cafe once. Everyone else was speaking English naturally and joyfully, while I sat quietly in a corner, listening but unable to say a single word. I felt like an outsider, Not because I lacked vocabulary or grammar knowledge, but because I lacked a real environment for communication, lacking friends to practice and learn with. That day, on my way home, I told myself, if I don't open my mouth, if I don't actively seek opportunities to talk to others, I will always be standing outside of this game. English is a living language. It doesn't only exist on paper or in instructional videos. It truly comes alive in conversations, in the way people use it to convey their ideas, emotions, and stories. You can study alone for months, but if you don't use English to communicate with others, you will never truly know your own capabilities. There's a quote I really like. You don't learn to speak English by learning. You learn to speak English by speaking. When you interact with others, you're not just practicing speaking. You're also learning how to respond, how to listen, and how to adjust your speech to sound as natural as possible. You'll receive feedback, get your mistakes corrected, and that helps you improve much faster. After that failed language exchange event, I knew I needed to change. Instead of always learning on my own, I decided to find a community to learn with. At first, I joined an online English learning group. We connected through a chat application, and every week we had meetings to practice speaking. People came from different countries, but everyone shared the same goal: to improve their English. Initially, I was still shy and didn't dare to speak much. But thanks to the encouragement from everyone in the group, I gradually became more confident. We didn't just discuss academic topics, but also shared stories about culture, life, and personal experiences. Once, I was paired with an Italian girl named Anna. Both of us wanted to improve our English-speaking skills, so we decided to video call each other every week. Sometimes our conversations flowed smoothly. But there were also times when I struggled because I couldn't find the right words to express myself. However, Anna was always patient and encouraged me to keep going. She never laughed at me when I made mistakes. On the contrary, she helped me correct them and explained everything carefully. As we continued our conversations, I felt I was improving much faster than when I was studying alone. If you want to improve your English speaking skills, try following these steps. 1. Find a learning community. Join online or offline English learning groups. There are plenty of forums, apps, and conversation clubs you can join. 2. Connect with a study partner. Find a partner who is at the same level or slightly more advanced. Practicing regularly with a friend will help you improve quickly. 3. Practice speaking daily. Don't wait for a group meeting to start practicing. You can talk to yourself, record your voice, or join online forums to chat with others. 4. Listen to feedback and improve. Be open to receiving feedback and corrections from friends or native speakers. This will help you understand where you need to improve. But the most important thing is, don't be afraid of making mistakes. The more you speak, the more confident you become. And the more confident you are, the better you will speak. Interacting with a community truly helped me improve my English speaking skills tremendously. But the journey of learning English doesn't end with speaking. There's another way to learn English naturally without feeling pressured, learning through entertainment. Sounds interesting, right? In the next part, I will share with you the method of learning through entertainment that allows you to learn while having fun and achieve the best results. Learning English doesn't always have to mean sitting at a desk with thick textbooks or writing down dry grammar rules. I discovered this quite by accident through an animated movie. It was a dull, rainy day, and I wasn't in the mood to study. So I turned on the TV and watched the famous animated movie Finding Nemo. At first, I just intended to watch it for relaxation. But then I realized that every line of dialogue, every natural conversation between the characters helped me learn English more easily than ever. I laughed when Dory got lost and couldn't remember anything. I felt emotional when Marlin tried to overcome every challenge to find his son. I realized that English in movies is not just a language. It's emotion, storytelling, and connection. When you learn through entertainment, you no longer feel like you're studying. You become immersed in your favorite movies, wonderful songs, or exciting games and forget all the pressure. This allows you to absorb the language naturally and more quickly. Here are 3 reasons why learning through entertainment is so effective. 1. Natural language. When you watch movies or listen to music, you hear English used in a natural way, not just stiff sample sentences from textbooks. 2. Learning through context. When you see a character feeling angry, sad, or happy, you understand the meaning of vocabulary and expressions more visually. For example, when a character shouts, "Leave me alone," you know they are feeling frustrated or want to be left in peace. 3. Motivation. When you learn through what you love, you never feel bored. Your enthusiasm will drive you further every day without you even realizing it. After watching Finding Nemo, I realized that I could learn English more easily through the movies I loved. From then on, I made watching movies an essential part of my learning journey. I started with simple animated movies like Toy Story, Frozen, and The Lion King. They have short, clear, and easy-to-understand dialogues. As I watched, I would write down interesting phrases or new words that I had never encountered before. But it wasn't just movies. I also listened to English music every day. When I heard a great song, I didn't just enjoy the melody. I tried to listen carefully and understand every line, every word. Then I would look up the lyrics, translate them into Vietnamese, and learn to sing along. Once, I listened to Someone Like You by Adele. Her powerful and emotional voice kept me hooked. I didn't just learn new vocabulary. I learned how to use those words in emotional sentences. For example, words like regret and bittersweet, words I can never forget because they are tied to the sad story of the song. It wasn't only movies and music. I also tried playing online English games, vocabulary games like Wordle, Scrabble, or even role-playing games where I had to communicate with other players in English. Every time I won, I felt like I had made a little more progress. If you want to learn English through entertainment, here are some methods I found most effective. 1. Watch movies and TV shows in English. Start with animated movies or short series. Once you get used to them, you can move on to more complex TV shows or films, if needed. You can turn on English subtitles to support your understanding. 2. Listen to music and sing along. Choose songs you love. Listen to them repeatedly, learn the lyrics, and try singing along. You'll learn a lot of vocabulary and natural expressions. 3. Play English games. Find games that help you improve your vocabulary or communication skills. Games like Wordle, Scrabble, or online games where you interact with others are all very helpful. 4. Learn through YouTube. There are countless YouTube channels that teach English through clips, songs, or even real-life conversations. Take advantage of this rich resource. But the most important thing I want you to remember is, learn in the way you enjoy. When you're having fun, you'll improve faster. Learning through entertainment helped me realize that English is not just a language. It's a part of life. But no matter how you learn, it's essential to have clear goals and plans to track your progress. In the next section, I will share with you how to set goals and track progress to ensure you stay on the right path and never lose motivation. Have you ever felt like you've been learning English forever, but not making any progress? As if you're walking down an endless road without ever seeing the destination? I've experienced that feeling myself. There was a time when I learned English randomly. Sometimes I watched movies, other times I read books, or I'd study vocabulary from endless lists. Every day I tried to learn a bit more, but I never felt like I was getting better or more confident. It was hard to measure how far I'd come. One day I happened to hear a quote, "If you don't know where you're going, then any road will take you nowhere." That's when I realized my problem. I was learning without clear goals. I didn't know what I wanted to achieve, and because of that, I couldn't evaluate my progress. Creating a study plan is like drawing a map. When you have a map in your hand, you know where you are, where you want to go, and which path to take to get there. Goals are not just what you want to achieve. They are a powerful source of motivation that helps you stay committed to your journey. When you see yourself gradually reaching smaller goals, you feel more confident and motivated to keep going. But planning alone is not enough. You need to assess your learning process regularly. Without evaluation, you won't know whether you're improving or just staying in the same place. When I realized I needed a clear study plan, I started by writing down what I wanted to achieve. My first goal was simple: learn 10 new words every day for a month. I wrote down each word, used them in sentences, and reviewed them using the spaced repetition method. After a month, I looked back at my vocabulary list. I was amazed to see I had learned over 300 new words. Next, I set another goal for my listening skills. Watch 20 animated movies without subtitles over the course of 3 months. I began with short, easy-to-understand films like Frozen and Toy Story, then gradually moved on to more complex ones. Each time I finished a movie, I wrote down the lines I had learned. But not everything went smoothly. Sometimes I felt like I wasn't progressing or even regressing. But instead of feeling frustrated, I decided to review my plan. I evaluated what I was doing well, what needed improvement, and adjusted my goals accordingly. I also realized that aside from long-term goals, setting small daily or weekly goals kept me motivated. For example, every week, I challenged myself to write a short paragraph about any topic I liked. This not only improved my writing skills, but also made me feel like I was making steady progress. If you want to make your English learning journey more effective, try applying these steps. 1. Set clear goals. Your goals should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. SMART goals. For example, learn 20 new words each week, or watch an English movie every day. 2. Create a detailed plan. Break down your big goals into smaller, manageable tasks. For example, if you want to improve your speaking skills, you can schedule practice sessions with friends or join online forums. 3. Track your progress. Record what you do each day. This will help you see your progress over time. 4. Evaluate and adjust. Regularly review your learning plan. If something isn't working, don't be afraid to make changes. 5. Reward yourself. Set small rewards for each goal you achieve. This will help you maintain long-term motivation. But the most important lesson I've learned is, no plan is perfect. What matters is that you remain flexible and persistent with what you've set out to achieve. Setting clear goals and tracking my progress helped me improve my English faster than ever before. But there's something else. An extremely important factor that helps you maintain your enthusiasm and determination throughout your learning journey. That's staying motivated, keeping your motivation strong. In the next section, I will share with you how to keep your passion and perseverance alive while learning English. There's a truth I've learned throughout my English learning journey. Not every day will be smooth. Some days you'll feel inspired, energized, and learn many new things. But there will also be days when you feel tired, frustrated, and want to give up. I clearly remember a particularly difficult period. At that time, I had just started challenging myself by reading an English novel of more than 300 pages. At first, everything was fine. I carefully read each page, trying to take notes of new words and learn how to use them. But after about 50 pages, I began to feel exhausted. I found myself reading without understanding anything. Difficult vocabulary and long, complex sentences made me feel discouraged. Every time I opened the book, I felt pressure. And then one day, I abandoned the book, feeling as if I had failed. In the days that followed, I no longer wanted to study English. Every time I thought about opening a book, I felt fear. I asked myself, I've tried so hard, so why am I not making progress? But then a friend told me, failure is not when you make mistakes, but when you give up. That statement changed everything. Motivation is the fuel that keeps you moving forward, even when things get tough. No one can maintain motivation forever, but you can nurture and rekindle it every day. One thing I realized is, motivation doesn't always come naturally. Sometimes, you have to create it yourself. Learning English is a long journey, and to avoid giving up halfway, you need to know how to keep the flame of passion alive within you. This is not just about finding joy in learning, but also about how you deal with challenges and failures. After listening to my friend's advice, I decided to change my approach. Instead of forcing myself to finish that novel, I broke down my goals into smaller parts. I started setting small daily goals instead of one big, difficult one. For example, instead of trying to read an entire chapter in a day, I would only read a few pages at a time. After that, I would reward myself by watching a favorite movie or listening to a song I liked. I also discovered new sources of inspiration. Instead of just learning through books, I switched to learning English through documentaries on topics I love. For example, I enjoy exploring nature, so I watched shows like Planet Earth and Blue Planet. Learning English was no longer a burden. It became an enjoyable activity I looked forward to every day. Another thing that helps me maintain motivation is keeping track of my progress. I created a study journal where I write down everything I've learned each day, even if it's just a new word or an interesting phrase. Occasionally, I look back at those old journal entries and realize how much I've improved. That realization truly fuels my motivation. Finally, I learned to accept moments when I feel tired. I understand that not every day will be a perfect study day. Sometimes I need to rest, and that doesn't mean I've failed. If you want to stay motivated in your English learning journey, try applying these tips. 1. Set small, achievable goals. Instead of trying to finish a long book, break it down into smaller parts and complete them gradually. Small progress will boost your confidence. 2. Find new sources of inspiration. Don't stick to just one learning method. Explore things you love through English. It could be watching movies, listening to music, reading stories, or joining online forums. 3. Record your progress. Keep a study journal or use progress tracking apps. Seeing your improvement will encourage you to keep going. 4. Accept failure and rest. Don't be too hard on yourself. If you feel exhausted, take a break. What matters is coming back with renewed motivation after resting. But the most important thing I want you to remember is, motivation doesn't appear on its own. It's something you need to create, nurture, and maintain. Learning English is a long journey, but it's also a wonderful one. Every step you take, no matter how small, brings you closer to your goal. But I want you to remember this. All the methods I've shared are just tools. The most important thing is how you use them. You can listen for thousands of hours, write hundreds of pages. But if you don't know how to apply and improve, all your efforts will be wasted. On this journey, you may have already realized that learning English is not just about accumulating knowledge. It's a journey of finding confidence, discovering yourself, and building meaningful connections with the world. I know there will be days when you feel tired, frustrated, or even tempted to give up. But that's part of the journey. No one can make progress without experiencing failures. What truly matters is that you keep trying, keep adjusting, and keep moving forward. Before we finish, let's recap the most important points you can start applying today. 1. Active listening every day. Find listening materials that match your level and practice the shadowing technique to improve your pronunciation and intonation. 2. Practice speaking regularly. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. Talk with friends, join English clubs, or even speak to yourself in front of the mirror. 3. Read to expand your thinking. Don't just focus on individual words. Read to understand stories, grasp ideas, and learn how to express yourself naturally. 4. Write to reinforce knowledge. Take notes on what you've learned, keep a journal, or even write your own stories. 5. Expand your vocabulary. Learn words in context, use the spaced repetition method, and don't forget to learn natural expressions. 6. Master grammar. Understand grammar as a tool to convey your ideas rather than just memorizing rules. 7. Engage with the community. Connect with fellow learners, share experiences, and help each other progress. 8. Learn through entertainment. Watch movies, listen to music, play games. All of these can help you learn English in a natural and enjoyable way. 9. Set goals and track your progress. Define specific goals, monitor your progress, and don't hesitate to make adjustments when necessary. 10. Stay motivated. Always find joy in learning, encourage yourself, and remember that failure is just a part of progress. Learning English is a long journey, sometimes challenging, but it's also filled with so many interesting and memorable moments. Every word you learn, every sentence you write, every time you speak, even just a short phrase, all of these are valuable steps forward. Remember, you don't need to be perfect right away. You just need to be a little better than yesterday. That's progress. And you're not alone on this journey. I'm here, along with many others who share the same goal, improving English and becoming more confident in using it. If you're feeling stuck on your journey, don't hesitate to share your story in the comments. Tell me what you've learned, what challenges you faced, and how you've overcome them. Or if you're still feeling lost, let me know. I'm always ready to help you. We're here to learn together, to progress together. And finally, if you find this video helpful, please hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel and share it with friends who are also learning English. That would be the greatest motivation for me to keep creating quality content. Remember, every day you learn is a new step forward, and I'm so happy to be with you on this journey. See you in the next videos. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep shining.